Hi, everyone. I am Heather, and I want to welcome you to Magnificent Authors Podcast, brought to you by Magnificent Mamas. This is the show where we'll celebrate the magic of storytelling and the power of words. I'm your host, Heather, and each week I'll be sitting down with incredible authors from all walks of life to explore their creative journeys, uncover their writing secrets, and delve into worlds they create. Whether you are an aspiring writer, a passionate reader, or simply curious about the minds behind your favorite books, this is the podcast for you. So grab a cozy blanket, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready to be inspired by the magnificent authors who join us. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I am Heather with Magnificent Mamas and Magnificent Authors Podcast. We are joined here today with author John Roy. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I've a self-published author, been writing and publishing my works for about 5-6 years now, and write shorter novels and short stories.
Awesome. What genre do you write in?
I really like Westerns. I grew up on the John Wayne, Clint Eastwood movies, so I kind of like to take those stories. And I'm also Catholic, raised strict Catholic household, so some of that Gnostic and Christian themes and characters I'll use for, say, supernatural elements of of the Westerns to kind of give them a little bit of a twist. Because I've read and watched a bunch of the classic Westerns, you always kind of think, well, that was good, but I've seen it. And so it's 100% original, but you can add little twists like that and maybe take it to maybe like a historical fiction part or alternate history, and then you can add a spice to that and keep the, I guess, the classic Western feel with just a different flair.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. My uncle, I remember whenever I'd visit, he would always be watching Westerns, and his house was all decorated Western style. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but yeah. My father-in-law actually loves watching Westerns, and he lives with us. And so he's always interested. He's like, can you find me a good one to watch? So
yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little more in depth about your books without giving spoilers away, of course, because we want everyone to go buy your books?
Yeah. So sort of my first one, it's called Sins of a Father. And it's actually a series of 6, and kind of placed in alternate history. And it's a Civil War vet who is kind of caught up, has a, let's just say, supernatural element to him, kind of follow him around. And then there's a split, and I use, essentially, it would be St. Michael the Archangel and Satan as sort of 2 overseers, trying to pull this character one way or the other. And he has a daughter he doesn't know is his daughter, and she is trying to do her best to, let's just say, follow the light while doing what she thinks is best for her and her dad.
Yeah. That sounds interesting, and definitely a different twist on stuff for sure.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you please.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's the classic motif of, say, fighting brothers, warring brothers, with, sort of, instead of like a son saving his father, it's a daughter saving the father, which some of that relationship's obviously based on my relationship with my oldest daughter. So there's a lot of myself in that, and I found just fun ways to add interesting scenes. We were taking a Christmas train ride, and I was like, well, this would be a cool way of, you put a train in there. I saw like a P.T. Barnum the First traveling circus like documentary, something like that. And I was just thinking, well, you could add a pretty dark twist to this if you threw it in there. And so I kind of take those kind of things that I see and put it in there. And I'd say the first 2-3 books of the series you could almost just read as standalones.
Okay.
Just because before I published anyone, as I was writing them, had these ideas and wanted to create a world. And then I figured, if you like one, you're more apt to buy a sequel than just maybe, we'll take a chance on a second book. So the first kind of 2-3 were written sort of as independents, and then I can kind of tie it all together.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, like the way I write is standalone, like a standalone series where, I'd say there's such and such, number of books, but you can read them all individually. You'll notice characters tying in other books and whatnot. But it's so funny because up until recently, I never even knew what that term was, like a standalone in a series. And it's so perfect. I love the idea that you can read, one book and then, it's still a series, but
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to read it in an order, a chronological order.
Yeah, I would say even the fourth one you could probably just pick up. I would say probably the number 5 and 6 tied together pretty well. So those would probably be ones, if you were just reading the descriptions 1-4, go whichever one sounds best. Go ahead and start with that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that sounds really good. Does each book have different characters and or are they all the same character? Like, you know what I mean? Like the main character.
Yeah. Book 1 has sort of its set. Book 2 has its set, but has one supernatural character kind of come over as the common element in the common world. And then in 3, they all kind of come together, but not in a way where you necessarily need to know the first 2, but obviously for background it would help. But anytime you read a brand new book, you can only put so much into the person's background. So
definitely.
And then number 4 kind of is a jump in history, sort of the way the Three Musketeers had their first book, and then it was, I think, forget the exact title, it was something like 20 years later, where they're all retired. D'Artagnan's sort of like an old man. So that's the way the number 4 feels for it. And then 5 and 6 just kind of take the story to the conclusion.
Nice. So is that the end of that series? I'm assuming, since you said it takes it to the conclusion.
For those characters, I have some short stories that will fit in between number 5 and 6 of the book series, and then short stories that go after number 6. I wrote 2 standalone novels. One is basically set in the 1760s. That's an inquisitor taking a person they don't know is a witch or demon possessed or both up to Boston for the exorcist bishop to make the determination. He hires a war vet from the French and Indian War to take him up sort of on the beaten path. There's a common character in that book with the other ones. And then I have another standalone. It's Knights of Old. I would say there's a lesser tie-in, but that one's pretty different than the other ones. And then I'm working on another one right now that has the short story. So some of the main characters in the short stories I write between number 5 and 6, trying to put them into their own novel, and they have that one common element, a supernatural common element too. So it can kind of tie it all together. And just kind of, I've always liked the appeal when you have an author that just kind of makes a little world and then everything sort of connects to it, even if it's completely different storylines or timelines.
Oh yeah, definitely. Are you currently writing anything right now?
Yeah, it's it would be another kind of Western. One of the quasi supernatural characters, let's say, from the from the novel series Sins of a Father. He's in there and he's sort of guiding these 2 best friends who seem to be falling in and out of different worlds. And so then this one is him taking these guys and kind of using them sort of as pawns to help him with something that he doesn't want to directly get tied into. And then there's more supernatural Gnostic characters that come in that are common sort of throughout the books.
Yeah. When is that going to be out? Do we have a date yet, or?
Not yet. I'm just in the second draft of that one.
Okay,
So
so
I would
still a
hope,
little ways out.
yeah, I would hope maybe by the end of the summer. But yeah, I have Haunting in the Wilderness is that first standalone I had, set in, like, say, the 1760s. Then The Knights of Old, which is set sort of in a quasi fantasy world, but essentially it's the Renaissance. And it would be the equivalent of if when the Three Musketeers were doing their work for the Queen, they stumble upon, say, if Merlin and King Arthur were real, and then that kind of affects them, and things start popping up, and they have to determine what's real, what's not. And I kind of take you back to that King Arthur time, and they sort of say, well, here's the legend, and then they kind of figure out, well, here's what actually happened, and then it kind of comes to a point at the end. It's not those characters, but that's the easiest way to kind of explain it to anyone.
I get it. It makes sense. It really does. Good idea. I needed a drink too. I was here like, So if you had to write in a genre you haven't wrote in so far, what would it be?
I might say that the Viking era. So, like, let's say 800 to 1200. And I grown up watching sort of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and then some of these old sword fighting movies. You just kind of gravitate almost to the weapon as a little kid. So the cowboys, you like the revolvers. World War II, you like the machine guns. The night movies, you like the swords. So just kind of the Viking, you like the ships and the sword, and just sort of that
the long boats.
Yeah, that just sort of persona they have. And so when I was reading like Three Musketeers, I really like the rapier. I like watching like sword fighting movies, like Man in the Iron Mask.
Yes, I just watched that a couple weeks ago again.
Yeah,
like it's not really a classic, I guess, but to me it is. Like, I love the story.
It was great, and I'm blanking on the other one. Henry Cavill and Guy Pearce, Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay, yep.
I really like those ones.
I really like the movie. I feel like it kind of is similar to The Mask of Zorro in a way. It's like more in depth of a similar situation.
Yeah. So you kind of get attracted to wanting to write about, say, that sword or that kind of fighting style. So that's why I kind of like having using sort of the Three Musketeers as an inspiration.
Well, it's a good inspiration, like, the musketeer idea, protecting their king, their queen, one for all for one.
Yeah, and you've seen, I see different adaptations of it and different TV series, and they play up different aspects of them, but just sort of that selfless service, and that just hey, it's the queen. I don't know anything about her, but I'm going to lay down my life for her. That just kind of chivalry in these imperfect.
It's not around anymore.
Yeah, well, depends on who you hang out with, I guess.
For an overall type of chivalry around the world, say it's something that's not, though.
Well, that's why I don't know. Raising my kids a little differently, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's important, though. I mean, like, none of that is wrong by any means, like manners and respect. A lot of people kind of, I feel like in the younger generation, forgot to do this. Make sure their kids are respecting their elders and, have good manners. And like, I homeschool my daughter, so that's the one thing I know she's taught respect and manners. Well, kids in public schools don't necessarily have all that.
Yeah, I was homeschooled in high school, and I definitely get that. Um, I had I was a little sheltered when growing up, and then when I went in the army, there was kind of a big rude wake up call there. But you
Oh,
can
yeah.
kind of keep that, keep the base of that. There's no need to lose that for any sake, and even stuff like just holding doors for people. I'm making sure I'm always smack the kid. Hey, hold the door for her.
Yep.
So, yeah, and
the same thing with my daughter, just out of respect for somebody. Or I'll notice sometimes we're at the grocery store and there's a little old lady that needs help with something, and my daughter will help her, and it's nice to know people still do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not, just a little kindness goes a lot of way. And I like that old chivalry. So that's in my writing too.
That's awesome. So you don't have a launch date yet. You're expecting your newest book, right, to be out the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any plans afterwards?
I've started a couple little things. Usually I'll get like a fun idea and I'll start writing something, and then if it doesn't take, it doesn't take, but I leave it, and then maybe I come back and adjust it or change it or use a character from it. I do like writing short stories, and I think a lot of my short stories would fall into, say, like a Twilight Zone-esque episode. And I've tried to write a couple more specifically just for that. Like I have one, Anything for the Belt, and it's a sort of like an old 1920s, sort of that journeyman boxer who fights for the mob, takes some dives, gets some dives, is offered a shot at the belt by sort of like the mob's boss's boss. And you kind of don't know, what's he doing here? Why does this guy get the shot? And then I kind of like at the end, kind of doing a double take on something. Like you think you kind of know what's going on, and maybe you do, but then there's always something else that's
a nice twist.
Something underlining. I wouldn't say necessarily. Sometimes it's a twist, but I would like to say it's like a underlying, or you take someone you didn't think was that important, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, oh I guess they were.
Yeah. How's your family been in regards to your writing? I know you mentioned children, and I can tell you're married. I see the wedding ring.
So. I mean, they support it. They don't really read it.
They don't read it?
No, I mean, my wife is a night shift nurse working 12 hours, and we got a couple little kids and a teenager. So big gap in age of the kids and life stuff. It's hard to sit down and read. So I don't really get on it for that.
I work night shift in healthcare. I get it completely.
Yeah.
So I get it. My favorite was like the locked units with dementia residents. That was my favorite. I love the feisty, sweet old elderly people with dementia. They crack me up. The ones that are up at 3:00 in the morning thinking it's time to get up for breakfast and looking for their car keys, and I love it.
Yeah.
So your children don't read your book at all either? Books?
My older one, when the first one came out, she was like 10, 11. And there's some stuff in there that might have been a little dark for her, a little graphic in the sense of fighting wise. Nothing inappropriate in the sense of sexually, just more like, fighting, descriptive fighting. And there's a little bit of a touch of horror, not really horror books, but if you're trying to describe sort of the fires of hell, you can't make that pretty.
No. Would you?
So she wanted to at first, and I said, wait a couple years, and then I guess that was a mistake because it's been a couple years, and she's like, no, I'll get to it. It's like, yeah, all right.
So if you had to say your book was directed at like an age range, what would the minimum age range be?
Probably high school. I mean, it would be. I mean, it's a Western base, but it's kind of like a dark fantasy.
Hmm.
Uh, little mystery in there, a little suspense, a little thriller, a little horror in the sense of.
Sounds
Um,
great.
yeah, I try to put in all my interests sometimes. So.
Hey, I get that completely. I write sci-fi fantasy, but I touch on a little bit of multiple genres, so I get it completely. And I love multiple genres to read, so
Yeah.
I get that. Um, if your book had a rating like a movie, so
Mhm.
like, PG-13, R, what would you say?
I'd say they're PG-13. Um, Nothing R.
Yeah,
There's no cussing. There's no, um, there's sometimes you just kind of imply something and then you just leave it at that, and it's like, okay, everyone knows what's going on. But
yeah,
it'd be the equivalent of sort of like a war movie, minus the language. So you
yeah.
might like Saving Private Ryan.
I haven't
Nothing
watched
there.
it in years.
Yeah, I mean, you see the pop and guy walking around looking for his arm, but nothing, nothing like a Rob
Nothing.
Zombie movie.
Yeah.
It's not like a slasher or Psycho Sid kind of thing.
Yeah, his movies are definitely interesting. Like on a, I don't even know what level to put that on, but and then what's that one movie? Donnie Darko. It wasn't by
Oh, I mean,
Rob Zombie, but it was definitely a little on the dark and
yeah,
twisted side.
yeah, that one was weird.
Yeah, definitely. I've only watched it like twice, but I own it for some reason. And what is it? M. Night Shyamalan? That's who
Yeah,
made that.
he has. Yeah, he has all the twists.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you still consider yourself a relatively new author, or would you say you're pretty experienced?
Well, I've been publishing for 5, 6 years. I have 8 novels out and 12 short stories. Uh, I think by volume, I would say I'm experienced, but I'm doing everything, um, designing my own covers. Uh, I write in Word or a Google Doc, then I take it over to Grammarly, and then I put it back into a Word, and then try to use some other software just to make sure all the
P's and Q's.
commas, yeah, all the so the editing is right, and so it's as I think they're getting better. I mean, obviously, the first one you write's never the best. It's the most
Yeah,
recent stuff you're writing. So I do think I'm always improving on that, and I, I'd say I'm probably quasi experienced.
it was funny. I was writing something and my daughter wanted to read it, and she's like, "Hey, you forgot a comma here." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were my editor now." It was funny.
Yeah,
What do you go ahead?
I sometimes you get that as like someone. Well, every now and then someone will read something. Oh, well, you didn't. It's a semicolon here or this there. It's like I put it through 3 word processors. Like,
Yeah.
what'd you think of the story? Like, I missed a comma. What did you think of the story?
Let's not be a grammar Nazi and, you know, oh, you forgot a comma. Oh, you didn't do that right. Yeah. Um, what is one thing you wish you would have known when you first published your book? Your first book.
Um, I think I didn't spend a ton of money on say marketing, but I did put what I could, you know,
Mhm.
and I kind of think I would have shifted that in different places or maybe not even put it as much as I did. I know I put a lot into some of the Amazon ads and I got a couple buys. uh, something like Instagram or Facebook, I get a lot of clicks. I don't necessarily get a lot of buys there, but I think there was a better ratio, at least to dollars to eyesight on the book.
Yeah.
And the one place I really was sort of successful, but I got kind of not pushed off, but I kind of got worried just the way people were acting on it, was Reddit. I go into these forums where it was people looking for book reviews or book ideas of something they read, and you check the rules and says, hey, you can advertise your own stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
You go through and you look for someone that might be interested in something you're writing. Obviously, someone that's looking for a rom-com book, I'm not going to offer mine. But
No, obviously
it's like
not.
someone was like, "Hey, I want a Western, but not the traditional cowboy Western." It's like, "Oh, okay." I give a brief kind of overview of what my book is and say, "Hey, if you're interested, I'll send you the link." And a lot of times they're like, "Yeah, that sounds cool." And I'd send them the link, and I got a decent amount of buys that way. But all of a sudden, people would report me for advertising my own stuff, and it's like, "Well, you said in your guidelines you can," and then I get kicked out or suspended from these groups, and I'm like, well, it's only a matter of time before they just start putting bad reviews to sort of troll you. So I kind of got scared off Reddit.
Yeah.
But if
I
there was
know
a better way to manage Reddit, I think that would be kind of where to be.
I know there's another guy that is an author that I've talked to that loves Reddit, and I've messed around on there just a little bit, but definitely not one of my strong areas for sure. But I keep hearing good and bad about it, so.
Yeah, it's tricky, and I just I had a review recently that was like I couldn't even tell if the dude really read anything. Like it said verified purchase, but I put the book up for free just because Amazon lets you do that. It's like, hey, well, read it for free if you like it. I mean, I got plenty of others for you to get. And it's just kind of like almost like he was angry that I self-published a book or self-published books, and was just like, I'm trying to get it removed, but at the same time, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, some people are just, there's a lot of horrible people out there in the world, and I don't think some of them realize the damage that they do, and their time could be spent better elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's sort of the risk you take for putting yourself out there, and then that's fine. I mean, I do get, I've gotten some good 5-star reviews. I've got some just a 5-star review with nothing written, or a 4 or 3, and it's like, okay, great. A couple people gave me 2s, but they didn't say anything bad about it. Just like, okay, 2. I'm like, all right, whatever.
That could have been, maybe it wasn't their thing.
Yeah, yeah. One of the 3 stars I got basically said, there's too much action in it and not enough character development. Like, hey, fair enough. Like if you thought it was too action heavy and you wanted more background, like obviously I think I put enough background into my characters, but
yeah,
can't please everyone.
No, you cannot. Not at all. That is for sure. Okay, so we are almost out of time.
Okay.
What kind of advice would you have for aspiring authors?
Just go for it. Just get something on paper. Just write.
I'll do it on paper still.
Yeah. Just get something down. That way you have something to edit. It's not going to be perfect the first time, and it's going to be bad the first time, but that's great. Now you have something to work with. You can move stuff around, add, subtract, whatever you got to do, and you just keep working it and working and working it. And then when you kind of get to the point where you don't really change anything anytime you go to edit it, then now it's time to publish it. You
Does that actually happen? Because I feel like I would constantly be editing something and never stop. Just me. Like I feel like I'd keep adding to it or changing something.
I get to a point where I have the events down, and then I get the dialogue down, and then I kind of get any kind of action or fight scene down, and then from there it's just do I want to add or not? Like, it's kind of like, when's enough? And I think sometimes we're just like, can I make this line better? Maybe. Is it worth fiddling with it? No, because it's decent. Like, it's really good. Like, if it's a 9 out of 10, do I risk making it a 7? Because I wanted to try to make it a 10. So I'll just leave it at a 9 out of 10 kind of mentality,
Makes sense.
So, I don't know. Sometimes you just keep going and going. Maybe you go away from it for a while, you come back, and if you think, all right, this was pretty good, then you just go for it.
I went away and I came back to my first story, and my main villain changed, and she became, well, all of the bad deeds she did was for like the overall good. That's, of a big event coming. And I can't get away without spoilers, but it was a twist I did not see coming when I was writing it.
You fool yourself sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that was kind of a surprise. We will, on the day that this podcast airs, feature your book on our Book of the Day section.
Oh, awesome.
And promote it on social media as well. We're on like every social media platform.
Awesome.
So unless you have anything else to add, I'm going to finish up here.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And the links on Amazon, of course, so people can purchase your book because, that's what we want. So
yeah,
everybody listening, make sure to go check out John Roy's books because I know I want to, and I know they sound amazing. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you all. Give me just a sec. And that's a wrap on another episode of Magnificent Authors Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to share another inspiring conversation with a talented author. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Magnificent Authors Podcast so you don't miss any of our upcoming conversations with amazing writers. And be sure to check out Magnificent Mamas on our website, which is www.magnificentmamas.us, or on our Facebook page for more inspiring content from incredible authors. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. What resonated with you the most? Head over to Facebook or leave a comment on our website and let me know. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep those imaginations soaring.